Okay, and why don't you folks all get together and do some chatting? We have some guitar questions for him. And Ralph and I'll come back later and play some more. So, your host for the afternoon.
How are you doing? Any questions at all right now? Do I have a band? Well, I'm forming a band. What I did very recently was I was featured in Mike Barney's column, the Spotlight column. And that was the August '85 issue. And from there, I graduated to doing things with Billy Sheehan and Steve Smith, and we formed we did a little, well, I should say like an album. We did an album, which will be released in a couple of months from now. The material is like jazz, rock, heavy, classically influenced type material. Really, it's all instrumental, and it's really involved tunes. It's great for the soloist, you know, the guitar, per se. Next. Any questions?
Why did you stop playing? Why did you pick the guitar?
Well, I didn't just drop the piano, but I've always been experimenting with the guitar. You know, like because the piano, the studying that I did, I started when I was 5 years old. It was very strict type of lessons. Chopin etudes, all the etudes of Bach, preludes and fugues, Beethoven sonatas. I had very little time to improvise. And all the improvising I had to do was like in secret. You know, I had a little Mayer type piece of junk guitar I used to like play around with in my room. So it really wasn't too cool. My parents were financing my lessons, and they didn't really feel like my improv, in that sense, away from the instrument, would you know, really benefit to my music. But I guess it does in a way. And the time I was 12 years old, I really felt like this is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be a famous classical pianist and play guitar at the same time. Well, it's hard to do both, but you know, I still play to this day. But maybe as I get older, I'll probably try to pursue a classical career to some degree. But I try to keep my piano chops together. You benefit a lot from being exposed to classical music because there's so many periods in time with the classic, you know, the classic thing that we did, the Baroque type thing that Jeff and I did here, and then the Romantic era can really help you get those singing melodies and the arpeggio type ideas into your playing. It's a lot of different avenues that the guitar is sort of expanding on today in this day and age from the classical influence type players. Next. I'm 25 years old, and I've been playing guitar probably since I was 12 years old.
Seriously playing since you're 12, or like when did you?
Well, when I started playing, my older brother is a guitar player. He's a guitarist, and I was exposed to Alan Holdsworth and that kind of thing, you know, at an early age. That's the influence that I picked up on, and so I tried, and I had the training from 5 years old, so I pretty much knew what I was doing melodically. You know what I mean? So I think that really benefited me from having that exposure, like I said, to the classical. I think if I didn't, I don't know, I'd probably be pretty misdirected. Right now, I you know, probably wouldn't really know what style or what direction to go in. There's a lot of different styles that I play fluently. It's evident on the record. I try to. We have like a really fusion type couple of tunes that are really out there with a fusion, and then we have some songs on there that are really they're more counterpoint, more not so much you're diminished in your harmonic minor playing, but your lines are more mathematically executed. By that I mean things like. Instead of being so free, you know, get the idea. Question? What's the name of it? We haven't decided a name yet. That's why I haven't told you a name. The album is still in printing right now, and we haven't decided what to call it. But if you come up with a good name, I'll use it. Okay? Any other questions? Come on, I know you have a lot of questions. Why do I use a Kramer? It's the only guitar I can afford. Any more questions at all? My main influence? Maurizio Pollini. He's a classical pianist. The composers are more my influence than the guitar players are today. I like a lot of things that a lot of the rock guitar players are doing. George Lynch, I like his tone. He has a really nice phrasing ability. Yeah, probably pretty much. I mean, I like a lot of the guitar players that are coming up today, but I don't really listen to one guitar player enough to really know what he's doing to say that this is the guy I really like. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do now. I have some things written down here about scale alternatives and some generalized picking. I'm going to lower this mic so I can sit down. My legs are killing me. Okay. One thing I try to employ when I'm playing is I try to come up with as many ideas and as many ways to play my scales rather than playing them in one specific area on the neck. This gives you a little bit more fluidness to your sound, and you don't sound as stale. You don't come up with the same sound. Like if I was playing an F sharp minor scale, you play it like this. In the standard pattern, you can do a lot of little things with that, a lot of little neat things. One thing I try to do is I always try, if I'm playing a minor scale, I like to look at the neck, try to utilize as many frets as I can. I try to slide on the root position of the note. If it's F sharp minor, I try to slide on a whole step to G sharp minor, and then I continue the scale. Let you really fly up the neck because your hand isn't stationary like such. And then I try to do little things like jumping around the neck and playing things like this, and different patterns on the neck, the same idea. Like, this helps you become really sure. I think it's really important to be really sure of the neck and developing a good ear. You play things a lot of times in one pattern. You see a lot of guitar players and necessarily it really isn't a bad sound and it's associated with rock, but you truly want to be able to expand on the neck and use your fingers to the utmost. I think by playing more in a scale atmosphere, like minor scales, if we're proving an F sharp minor, we try to use more scales to get a more fluid type sound. A lot of people have trouble approaching scale type playing because their picking usually is a deficiency. There's lots of neat little picking things you can do with triplets and dotted rhythms, and one of the things I try to do is I try to do this where I pick a triplet with it's one solid note, and I use this other note as a quarter note type thing. We have this type of sound. We sort of jump around the neck. This kind of picking you really wouldn't find too many players that play. We call it like the box playing. Playing that style, you wouldn't really want to. When you try to use those scales, you come up with a more sloppy sound because your pick really isn't developed. When you work with a triplet, you put a lot of emphasis, and you're muffling the string, you put a lot of emphasis on the pick. So you have more power. Okay. Arpeggios are really a big thing in my sound right now. I try to use the arpeggios in a matter of like connecting them, sort of like the violin type sound. And I have a few little ideas that I've used. I'm going to play an A minor arpeggio. I use A minor in this such here and use the triad, 1, 3, and 5, use the minor. I can use the pinky here to jump around. The pinky can top the arpeggio off with a high note here. Sounds really neat. Sounds very like a guitar sound. You know? About that? Questions? Sure.
You approach that, you basically try to put like three notes in the string or you main. I mean, I really can't see what you're doing.
Okay. Do I try to do what now?
When you do it, like, you have a certain way to try to set it up where.
Well, one thing I try to do is I try to start with. In this example, I'm starting with it's a minor triad, so it's A minor. So I'm starting with the 1, 3, and 5 from the A minor scale, A, C, and A. So I'm starting with the first note in the A scale, and I play the triad right here. And basically, what I do, it's pretty sequential. I play A, C, E, then an octave higher, I play A, C, E again. And I'm not trying to pick each of the notes in an upwards, downward motion. You're sort of dropping a pick, like a. You want to try to get your pick so it's really even. So when you bring it down, when you bring a pick down, you're picking really right off the fretboard in the same place that you're going to, so you don't end up going like this. You move your hand about, because I find that you get pretty immobilized when you try to play them, and they sound kind of choppy when you. It's another way of playing them, but using them as like. The idea too, with when you practice, a lot of times you want to try to practice away from a set type format. What I mean by that is that you have a progression, and let's say you're jamming by yourself and you tape a progression and play through. The one problem with that is when you play through a progression, let's say like an A minor progression, A. A lot of guitar players practice the things that they're primarily strong at. If they play a progression, a relating minor progression, the next progression that they'll play, they try to be different in the next hour. They'll maybe go up a half step, and they'll do it from B flat to F sharp. Well, one thing I try to do, and it's proved very helpful to me, is I play away from a progression. I just try to improvise using the relation of some of the chords to each other that don't fall into like the box form, like. Just basic chords for now. Let's give you an example. And what I try to do is I try to outline that idea in my head with the improvising. Without hearing the chords, you sort of hear the chords when you're playing, but nobody's really there accompanying you with the chords. So it has that sound. What's really a pretty cool thing to do is you get a lot of nice things from reading the classical things, like the piano preludes, the Bach preludes. Try to apply those Bach preludes to your playing. The guitar music, the classical guitar music, really isn't as much of a challenge to apply to the electric guitar, because I think in the finger picking is what really discourages me anyway. But harmonically, I think it's more musical to take, let's say, the soprano line of the right hand on the piano. And this is a really cool exercise that you can do with hammer-ons. This first Bach prelude in C minor is learn the thing in hammer-ons by doing the first part. Really gives you a good tonality lesson, your ear. Then you can go back and you can learn the other part, the left hand, that Jeff was playing, I don't know it, that Jeff was playing, and try to apply those two parts into your playing. One thing that you hear, chordal-wise, is it's a whole different idea on playing when you try to add the classical influence into your playing. You come up with things that are more daring, I think. You see less of this. I think you will see more of it in the future, but you see less of this among guitar players. You see a lot more of the... Good, this was in the beginning. This is really cool to do. But right now, I think the music is getting kind of tired in the sense that we need a little bit more direction in harmony. Any questions? My right hand picking? Two things are important when I'm picking with what I consider using more of a pick sound. My left hand here has a lot to do with the sound. A lot of guys generally think that you can develop your pick with a lot of neat little exercises, you know. But this is good. I think it's a matter of contact. To have good timing with this hand, and this works in coincidence with this. Both hands work together to produce a really, because if you go like this, it's an attacking sound, you know? It sounds pretty much like a pick. You want to develop a lot of strength in hammer-ons with this hand, okay? At the same time, I do little things with triplets. And I pick little melodies out, like the jigs. Really try to do them that fast, because a lot of times when you get up and play live, you're playing, if you practice slow, you have a more controlled type of sound, because the playing that honestly that anybody wants to do is definitely in front of an audience. That is where you get a lot of energy when you're playing, and the things that you practice that are more contained and more solid, you'll have a lot more control. You see guys that practice really fast, and then when they get up and play in front of an audience, they're all over the place. They're dropping their pick and they can't seem to get it together, because you've worked on speed so much. You worked on keying yourself up in a practice room. And then when you go out and you try to play, that's all gone. That's right out the window. And it happens. You forget about a lot of things that you play in practice. It's ironic. That's the thing you really want to happen. You want to actually, at the same time, forget about everything that you've done and try to get a full sound. So with my pick, I take the scale as another exercise, and I pick with... I might pick with eighth notes all the way up. And definitely use the metronome. And I'll speed it up. It's a secret pick. It's a very worn out Jim Dunlop pick, yeah. Yeah, and it's a very good pick. I like it. It doesn't fall out of my hands a lot as much as the Fenders do. And it doesn't wear down as much. But that has nothing to do with the sound. But what we do is definitely work with a metronome. A metronome, a lot of guys have laughed at me for working with a metronome, and they call me the clock player and everything else like that. But you could pretty much get your stuff together a lot more effectively, because your time is not the same as you know, as a metronome time. Metronome has a lot more, the evenness will help you definitely pinpoint your problems. A lot of guys have an uneven sound because they pick a lot louder down one way, and when they pick the other way, they have a less of attack on the pick. So what it develops is an uneven sound. When you really, what you want to have is a lot of weight on the pick, so you. So it's really even, a lot of weight, and a lot of concentration with that. Questions? Questions? Question? Any questions at all? Excuse me?
Yeah, I've been doing I've been doing that slow.
Okay.
I noticed a big difference in my playing.
Right.
A lot smoother, a lot cleaner, a lot more control.
Right.
On things I was limited in, I've been working on them because you're playing slow, you want to think everything as you're picking or clearing. I've been doing everything pretty smooth, not as choppy. Like I said, a lot of players play real choppy. And then I hear people say they're great because they play real fast, but actually they're not really playing fast. They're picking, they're going faster than their left hand.
Right.
It's
Right.
not even.
Right.
It's supposed to be in sync together.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Realize that too.
Sure, and that brings in a strong importance of both the pick. It's very important to be a strong pick player, I think, and at the same time have a really developed left hand where you can play with hammer-ons, like your Alan Holdsworth type sound, because what that does is that it's the contact to both hands is very important. A lot of people don't seem to realize that. You can have a really fast pick and a very sloppy hand, or the other way around. So I try to do a little bit of both. I try to practice with I put like the soft music station and I try to improvise to that, which is like primarily like the first half hour, just basically hammer-ons without so much to pick. And that develops this hand to the fullest. And also, I think playing other instruments, the piano has helped me do that too, the independence for that hand. There's a lot of neat little exercises I do for that. One of them, for developing the left hand, is a chromatic type thing that we do. I've done this with my students, and they've noticed too, remarkable improvement with their dexterity from doing this 4-1, 4-1, 3-1, 2-1, just chromatic, and then you go to the next string, nice and slow. Then go back and try with the pick. So forth, down the neck, up the neck, and down the neck. And you'll notice the difference with these fingers. These fingers tend to be generally the weaker fingers. What I try to do is I try to start a lot of my runs with the pinky to try to get a less predictable type sound. Questions? Any more questions about that? Anything? They told me you guys would have a lot of questions to ask me. How well do I sight read? I sight read, I think, fairly excellently from my exposure to the classical. The music's pretty much the same, and music is music, I think. Did I find it? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, I think that might lend a problem. If you're not really sure of the fretboard, of course you're not going to know which notes to play. But I've never encountered that problem because of practicing the scales and becoming really sure what the notes are on the neck. And then my reading has been very strong from playing playing classical music, playing classical piano. So I've never really experienced that problem. Okay. Excuse me again? I use the bar. With vibrato, I have an acoustic guitar where try to practice generally a lot on the acoustic. When I practice vibrato, I don't really think that much about what I do. I try to make the note sing. I try to let the note have a really singing tone. One thing I try to do is basically with slurring. I went chromatically. At one time I remember going... pretty much slurring and then going up the neck. But my vibrato, I don't really consider my vibrato very good. I think it can be improved. I have no really secret about the way I use the bar and the way I use my finger. I just try to generally get a good tone. Okay. Next. What kind of players generally do we have here? What style of music do you guys normally play? Is it rock and roll? Who are some of your favorite guitar players? Yngwie? Gary Moore? Van Halen. Okay. Do you guys learn these solos from these guys? Do you listen to these records and get their style, or do you consider yourself having your own style, or what do you think? Huh? Nobody's original anymore. Yeah, do you run it? Well, because people get a chance to hear everything. Not some... Okay. Excuse me again? Yeah, I just pretty much improvise, and I think by not listening to too many people, you don't run the risk of sounding like somebody else. I think I've heard a lot of people, for instance, the Yngwie sound. These people listen to a certain sound, and I consider Yngwie's sound very, very musical. He's a person that does it very well. I like to see him do that sound. I don't particularly like to go out to a club and see a guitar player play, and he has that same sound. I think that when you play a lot with the harmonic minor and the diminished type idea, you run the risk of having that same sound. And I think if you practice a lot and try to limit your listening to other people, you'll definitely be more original. It's not that hard to do when you look at the mileage that classical music alone has from our different periods of time up to our contemporary, all the way back to our Scarlatti days. There's so much music in there and so little over the different periods of time, so little copying. Everything was a lot more original. Of course, they didn't have radios and record players. But, yes. What? Do you play guitar? Yeah. Okay. What style of music? Okay. Okay, one of the things I'll do right now is I'll play you a little thing, and then we'll get Jeff back up here. What time is it? Anybody have the time? What's that? Okay. Well, I guess maybe we should get Jeff up here. This is only supposed to be like an hour long. Is Jeff around? Where did Jeff boogie to? Yeah. Get Jeff, and we'll get going again.
Do you ever sing violin pieces?
Violin pieces? Yes, I did. One of the things I like to do is I like to get the record of various concertos and things like that, and read the concerto and play the concerto at the same time, and try to play the violin part. But the violin octave, the range on the violin is, you sort of have to do a lot of transposing keys and to accommodate that sound. So I run into difficulties doing that. But I mainly like to listen to the other instruments, not so much trying to read and figure out what they're doing, because that can be a good inspiration if you directly try to apply things that you hear. Sometimes you miss the point. And then if you leave it just up to a hearing type thing, it becomes more influence to you because you're not directly trying to apply that element to your playing. Okay? Is Jeff around?
Yeah, he'll be in a minute.
Oh, okay, cool. I haven't had a chance to hear the record yet, so I really don't know what's on there. Okay, is Jeff Berlin around? Can somebody grab him? So we are like running out of time.